and I'm showing up for definitely one of my most powerful videos as of yet. I don't even know what to say about it. It's going to be absolutely incredible. So I've got 18 pages, a full conversation with an Arcturian being that I'm just going to read off today. It's just going to be question answer type of format. I have done this before with the Galactic Federation, and I was not planning on doing this today. A couple days ago, I was editing my book that is probably going to be released in a year because I just have no time to do it. But I was editing this chapter with this Arcturian being. I got full body chills the whole time. My mind was so incredibly blown. I wrote it. I already channeled the information and it blew my mind. And I was left thinking, humanity needs this right now. If we need anything, it is this conversation. I'm getting chills just freaking thinking about it. So today you're going to learn a little bit of the inner workings of the Galactic Federation and the different roles and positions and how they basically intimately work with different beings working within the Galactic Federation. So that's kind of the beginning, the first half of the conversation. And then the second half of the conversation is all about what the hell does humanity need to know right now? And it goes places, you guys. It freaking goes places. Wow. Before I dive into it, I just want to say we've got the Galactic, speaking of conversations, we've got the Galactic Federation meeting coming up this August 11th. We're going to kind of deep dive into what is going on right now at this time on planet Earth, DNA upgrades, food shortages, dark agendas, all of that stuff. And most likely we will be talking to the same being. So if this resonates with you, you probably want to go check out the Galactic Federation Summit every month, or at least this month. And then we also have my long-awaited astral travel workshop happening on August 19th. If you purchase a live ticket, you also get the recording and a 30-day astral travel workbook, which is incredible. So even if you're watching this after August 19th, that workshop is going to be available upon the recording. It's amazing. It is literally blown out of the water. And last but not least, if you enjoy this video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. That really helps me out. And just letting you guys know, I have a Facebook page if you're on Facebook. I've got an Instagram page if you're into Instagram. I have a TikTok as well if you're into that. And I also have a podcast called Expand with Elizabeth April. So definitely check that out if you're interested in deep diving into more of my content, not to mention my membership platform with over 900 of my videos. So if you want to binge, that's a perfect place to go. And I am being accompanied today by my Arcturian mala, and then I've got the Pleiadian mala on my other hand. So if you do resonate with the Arcturians in particular, or just this conversation, then definitely check out Lily Rose Jewelry Co. and check out my own personal crystal line with Lily Rose Jewelry and all of the different interdimensional species we have there. Are you ready? Do you have your notebooks out? Are you literally strapped in? Because this is going to be such a wild ride. I'm not great at like reading out loud, but it is my own words, so it shouldn't be too bad. And it's also an unedited excerpt of my book. So just realize that I have 10 conversations with 10 different interdimensional beings in this book, but don't hold your breath for it. It's coming, you guys, it's coming, but probably not for a little while. All right? Okay. Conversation with G, an Arcturian being of the Timeline Council. And I'm just gonna intro it. I'm just reading, okay? All right. The next being I want to bring through is an Arcturian being who works for the Galactic Federation on a very small council that I call the Timeline Council. I was first introduced to him during my monthly Galactic Federation of Light Summit meetings that occur on the 11th of every month. I usually close my eyes, quiet my mind, and remote view over to the GFL mothership in order to gain access to information for humanity. G has royal blue skin and an elongated head with very large galaxy-like eyes. He is relatively short, around 5 feet tall, with a very loving and patient presence. He works on a council of 4 beings, all Arcturian. They have a device that they work with. Not sure what the device is called. It is basically a giant white transparent orb in which they are able to see potential timelines of future events. They view timelines of all sorts, but specifically focus on planet Earth and advise other councils on what could or will happen. I will get him to elaborate on all of this and how it works since it all can be very confusing. Let's get into it. I'm sitting at my desk, chai tea in hand. I close my eyes, set the intention to visit G, and remote view to his council on board the GFL mothership. Me. Hi, G. G. Hello, Elizabeth. Me. So I assume you know what I'm doing here? G. You would like to interview me for a text that you are writing? Me. Yes, correct. So first of all, thank you for taking the time to be here with me. I know how busy you are on this council, especially at this time. Can you first explain why your name is G? I think most people reading this, it probably sounds like a weird name. G. Yes. G is the name that we agreed upon since my real name would be too difficult to translate into English and pronounce in your language. Me. Yes, I remember how complex it was when you first gave it to me. So tell us, who are you? What is your position, and how did you end up there? G. I am an Arcturian being from the planet Arcturus. I was born on my home planet and quickly felt the call to join the Galactic Federation. I didn't know how I could assist, but knew that I needed to be a part of it. Is my audio cutting out? Is my video cutting out? Because we've got a crazy, okay, you can hear. Good, good, good. Okay, good. We've got a crazy storm happening. All right, cool. All right. So, G, I'm an Arcturian being from the planet Arcturus. I was born on my home planet and quickly felt the call to join the Galactic Federation. I didn't know how I could assist, but I knew I needed to be a part of it. Me, going back to your home planet and upbringing, was your family sad to see you leave? Have you been in contact with them since? G. Our species is quite independent and does not have long-term connections as we develop. My family overall was very happy to see that I was accepted to work with the Galactic Federation. Me. Oh, well, that's really good to know. So, when you got to the mothership, what happened? G. I was sent in for an evaluation to see where my skills were. Initially, they put me in a position as an analyst. Me. What kind of analyst? What exactly were you doing? G. I was connected to a machine, what you would call a computer. I would analyze data related to the evaluation or progression of a planet and its civilization. Me. So, what were you looking for during your analysis? G. It is imperative that the galactic councils are aware of any universal law infringement. Once they receive the information about what is taking place, they then make decisions on how to proceed. Me. How did the data come to you? You were hooked up to this machine, but how did you perceive the data? I'm so curious. G. I perceived it as similar to computer code that you have on your planet. It would be lines and lines of information that I could see, but also perceive in my mind. I wasn't reading the code exactly, but I could detect easily when there were anomalies in the code. Me. So, is it like looking at a graph and when the graph dipped or spiked, it would alert you that something was off? And also, does every planet and civilization just have this code? Or was it the computer who was interpreting that information and translating it into code? Gee, very good questions, Elizabeth. Yes, similar to your graph example, but not quite looking like a graph. The anomalies are easy to spot when you're looking for them. Every civilization on and off the planet has a frequency associated with it. The computer is able to convert that frequency into something that is readable. Instead of viewing and perceiving the information on a screen, it would just get uploaded directly to my brain for faster processing. Me. Okay. I think I can understand that. So, when you found an anomaly, what were the steps that you took to alert the councils? G. After observing an anomaly, I would do some investigating to uncover how that civilization was being affected and the influences around it. Initially, I would alert the higher councils of all the anomalies, and many of them would turn out to be non-issues. It was important for me to find the source of the anomaly in order to understand the action steps needed next. Me. Okay, so now I'm really curious. Please give us an example of one of these situations. G. There was a situation in my early days where a civilization was giving off emergency signals. When I observed this anomaly, I noticed that the planet itself was lacking a key mineral to support sustainable growth for a long existence. The species living on the planet needed this mineral and had drained its resources early on. After discovering the cause of the anomaly, I went to the higher councils with the information. Me. And what did they decide? G. I am typically not a part of the decision-making process and rarely know the outcome of the situations that I present to the councils. For the sake of this story, I will relay the outcome they decided upon. The High Council was deciding between the options of letting the planet and species die out with the resources, or to transplant them to another planet with the resources they needed. It was a difficult decision because there were many implications on either side. In this case, they let the civilization live on another planet that could house them and provide sustainable resources. Me. So, did that species learn their lesson of overconsuming resources? G. The species was a low-level organism and did not have the conscious ability to choose a different path. They were unaware of draining the resources because they were just existing. The council understood that this civilization was going to be an integral building block for a much bigger development later on. So, they intervened to allow this future process to take place. Me. Wow! That is so interesting to think a decision like that with a low-level species has a greater impact later on, and that's why they made it. I'm sure you learned so much from being in that position. G. Yes, precisely. And for me, it was the desire to understand the impact of decisions made that pushed me into a different direction. Me. I have so many questions. First of all, can you please explain the laws of the universe for those who don't know? G. Yes, there are universal truths or laws that every citizen of the universe must abide by. It is the duty of the Galactic Councils to assist when these laws are not considered by others. Me. Can you tell us what those laws are? G. The main ones are as follows: the law of non-intervention, the law of free will, and the law of cause and effect. Me. So, what happens when these laws aren't followed? G. There are consequences when these laws are broken, but I'm not the one to ask about those consequences. Me. Okay, makes sense. I do have another question. Did you monitor all civilizations across the entire universe, or just the ones that are contracted with the Galactic Federation? G. We monitor all civilizations. Many of them do not comprehend life beyond their planet, and therefore are not aware of the Galactic Federation's existence. Me. Yes, that makes sense. So I'll play devil's advocate here. Isn't the Galactic Federation overriding the law of non-intervention by intervening in civilizations who did not ask for help with their free will? G. Very good question, Elizabeth. Yes, you are correct in pondering this. The answer is not straightforward and takes a great deal of comprehension. The Galactic Federation is, in a sense, contracted by the central sun, which is source for them, to ensure that all of creation is able to live freely and experience their contracts collectively. Although it may seem like the Federation is overriding the free will of an individual, they are in fact aligning to the highest contracted timeline. This is similar to how your etheric guides intervene to help you stay on the highest contracted path. Think of the intervention as assistance with alignment into the highest contract. The example that I gave is a more convoluted one, which requires a council's directive and decision. There were many other cases that were clear infringements of the laws and therefore needed direct and immediate action from the galactic councils. Me. Okay, yes, I think I can understand your reasoning behind intervention, but you're right, it is fully hard to comprehend. Can you give me an example of one of these other cases? G. Yes. Before I left, there was an anomaly that I came across. There was a war being fought in a galaxy where there were pre-existing peace treaties. Multiple different civilizations living off-planet were able to get together and create a plan to take over the less advanced civilizations. This was a clear example of universal law infringement and treaty infringement as well. The Galactic Federation was able to deploy ships immediately to help assist the issue. Me. Okay, so I have a clarification question. On planet Earth here, we have a ton of infringement and corruption happening that the GFL does not stop. Aren't there planets and civilizations that are actually contracted to go through galactic wars and hardships? G. Yes, you are correct. The galactic councils need to step in when the civilization's contracts are not in alignment with what is taking place. Me. But as I understand it, collective contracts of a species can change. G. Yes, you are correct. Contracts can and do often change, but there is a general plan or trajectory of a civilization and many pathways to get there. If what is happening does not align to that planned outcome, interventions from the council is needed. Me. So who actually decides the collective projected outcome of a civilization? G. That is a tough question to answer. There is no decision made by any one being. There is a collective frequency that a species gives off upon the evolution or creation of that species. The progression of the species through many different pathways must always equate to the same end in order to complete the intention or role that civilization plays within the universe. It's like pouring out. Love it. Me. Wow, that is so interesting. And I don't think I've ever heard this before. For those who don't know or need clarity, can you expand on the idea of contracts, both collective and individual, please? G. Yes. Similar to what I just mentioned, contracts are vibrational signatures or frequencies that are agreed upon by the collective civilization or individual incarnation. It is the intention or purpose of existence. I'm going to repeat that. Contracts are vibrational signatures or frequencies that are agreed upon by the collective civilization or individual incarnation. It is the intention or purpose of existence. This gives structure and organization to the creations of this universe. Me. What happens when the contract or intention isn't reached? Or does that even happen? G. Yes, that happens often. This is why the Galactic Federation was founded, to help the collective stay aligned to its intended purpose. Full body chills. If the intended purpose or contract is not fulfilled, that intention will be recreated again through a different avenue. Me. So, life just keeps going, eh? That doesn't seem to be a big deal. So if it doesn't work out, it will just replay? G. It absolutely can be a big deal. Every piece of this universe is connected to all other pieces. If one gets stuck or repeats, it affects everything else around it. One small piece can disrupt a big system. This is why intervention is sometimes necessary. Me. Oh, I see. Whew, this is a lot to take in, even for myself. I want to get back to the progression of your role in the Galactic Federation. You said you left. Why did you move away from that analyst position? G. Although I thoroughly enjoyed my position as a universal law analyst, I felt extremely curious about how these decisions played out after the analysis. I wanted to know how these councils made their decisions, and I wanted to observe the impact of those decisions. Me. So, when you feel unsatisfied in a role that you are placed in within the Galactic Federation, how do you change roles? G. Upon awareness of my curiosity, I went to the same council that I went to with the anomalies and told them how I was feeling. They were very supportive when I brought this up and tested my skills once again to see where else I could be of benefit to the Federation. Me. So after the testing, what were the options or positions that came up? G. Good question. Yes, I was presented with 3 different options that I aligned to. One, of course, was the analyst position that I was currently in. The other was a position on the decision council that made the final decision related to the anomalies that I presented. And the final choice was to be a part of the timeline council. Who would be the ones looking into tough situations that the decision council could not decide on? For example, when there is a clear infringement of a current peace treaty, the decision council can easily make that decision. When it comes to an example like the one I gave you with a lack of resources, it requires extra information like the one I gave to look into 2 different pathways of letting them either self-destruct and die or of saving them. I hope this makes sense. The words can be difficult to find since the English language is so limited. Me. Yes, I believe I'm comprehending. So, what made you choose the Timeline Council over the Decision Council? G. The choice was clear to me. I felt the most excited about looking at all the options and not having to choose which one was best, but to present the most prevalent options to the other councils for them to then make an educated choice. The Decision Council was too definite. I did not want the responsibility of making that choice and having the consequences weigh on me. I felt curious about looking at all of it simultaneously. Love it. Same. Me. Yes, I totally share that curiosity, G, and try and maintain objectivity while relaying information that I receive. Speaking of which, why why were we suited for this position? I'm assuming that you have a certain specialty when getting chosen for this. G. Yes, indeed. There are two components to all three of the jobs that I was selected for. You must have the ability to maintain neutrality or objective observation, as you mentioned. And you must also be able to analyze multiple different scenarios at one time. Me. So, this white light orb that your council works with, I'm guessing it's some sort of technology, but it doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look anything like the computer you were hooked up to in your old position. Can you please explain more about the orb and how you work with it? G. Yes, the orb is a technology, but it is a conscious technology rather than a material one. It is able to focus on the coordinates that we give it and show all possible timelines based on that given space, time, and particular situation. Me. I know that when I tap into the Akashic records, I can see all the different timelines that are possible. I'm guessing you can do this yourself as well. So, why do you need a technology to help you? G. Good question, Elizabeth. Yes, many beings are able to perceive beyond this time condition. However, the variable lies in the amount of information that one is able to process. You, for example, can process a perceived timeline in your own life or someone else's life. This is a small amount of information that you are able to see. There's only so much a physical brain can observe and process. We have this orb to do the hard work for us, and we are simply able to observe and conclude from that. Me. Do you have a name for this orb? If so, what is it? G. To translate it into English is difficult, but let me try. And then I put in side notes here when something else is going on in the astral that's not the conversation. Side note, whenever a being has a difficult time translating something, I work with them in my mind to find the translation, as it's as if I present the sounds and letters associated with the English language, and they present the frequency of the name. Sometimes it comes through quickly and with ease, and sometimes it takes a while. The emphasis is always on the frequency of the name or word, and less about the spelling or direct translation. As I close my eyes and work with G on this name, it's extremely difficult. Some names that come up just felt cheesy and not aligned to the vibration, but I'll give you some examples. Perceptometer, Octalaviv, and Octometer. I definitely feel the right vibration with Oc, but once again, we are having a difficult time finding the right word. I'll try one more time, and we might have to just leave it at that or use one letter to define it like we did with G's name. Okay, we found it. It resonates, but of course, my human mind is chuckling at how similar it sounds to G's home planet, Arcturus. The name that came through is Octorus, with an O and not an A. When I giggled at the similarities, G piped up immediately and mentioned that it is Arcturian technology, so it makes sense that it sounds similar, so I agreed. Me. Speaking of Arcturians, I noticed that your small timeline council are only Arcturians. Why is that? And also, are there other councils that do what you do? G. Yes, there are many timeline councils. There are many timelines and decisions to be made. So we need as much input as possible. Every once in a while, there will be a second council called upon for the same timeline or situation observed. In my council, there are only Arcturians because we work well together. Within the testing conducted, you are also tested for what council will suit your frequency the best. This makes the majority of the councils very productive and efficient in their work. Arcturians are known as an objective and analytical species, so we fit into this role particularly well. Me. Okay, random question about all of this. When you get your situation to observe, and once you have the different timelines and outcomes, how do you present that information to the council that makes a decision? I'm just super curious about how it all happens. G. Once we have all the information required to make an educated decision, one of us will go to the decision council and present the timelines through what you call telepathy. We will give the multiple outcomes objectively. Sometimes our perception of the situation is asked, and we will present our ideas. Mostly, the other council will take this information and make a decision internally. Me. Okay, wow. So much amazing information to digest. I so appreciate your time and patience in sitting with me to describe all of this. I now want to talk specifically about planet Earth. What is happening here? And what information are you able to share about us right now and the different timelines presented? And side note, this is where things get really weird. G. Up until recently, there has been one main path Earth has been on. This path was dictated entirely by the nefarious beings on your planet. Recently, in the past 10 to 15 years, your trajectory or path split into two. You are currently divided. Me. Yes, okay, that correlates with other information that I have received from other members of the Galactic Federation and even Mother Gaia herself. So first, I want to know, why have these nefarious beings been allowed to control our narrative? It seems like they are overriding just a few universal laws. G. These beings have knowledge of the human hybrids and how your perception or knowledge is able to create your world. Therefore, they know how to manipulate your surroundings so that you are the ones making the choices and creating a limited existence. They are not doing this for you. Me. Okay, so they are simply convincing us of what is true and what is not. Therefore, we still have free will, which means they aren't breaking any rule, which means they can still do what they're doing? G. Yes, exactly, Elizabeth. I hope you heard my eye roll. Me. Okay, so then what exactly happened 10 to 15 years ago to break their hold on planet Earth? G. There was a shift in the vibration of the planet. This happened at an external and internal level? Me. Can you elaborate on what exactly influenced this shift externally and internally? G. Yes. Waves of cosmic radiation hit your planet and increase the vibration that is supporting your civilization and freed humans from this manipulative entrapment. Internally, thanks in part to the Galactic Federation's involvement, there were enough volunteers from high vibrations incarnating on planet Earth to support that shift. When combining these forces, it tipped the scales and split the timelines. Me. That makes a lot of sense and once again correlates to what I've been told before. So tell us more about the two different timelines. I'm wondering why we did not shift into one future reality that was just better than the last. G. One of these timelines or future outcomes is a lower frequency, as you call the old Earth or third dimension. The other timeline or outcome is a higher frequency or new Earth or fifth dimension. The reason why you didn't just move into one higher outcome is because there is still much density and old perceptions on your planet. This is in part due to the nefarious influences, but also in part due to the unwillingness to change from the humans. Me. Since this split, how has your council navigated this dynamic change? G. It has been extremely difficult to make decisions within higher councils because the timelines are shifting on planet Earth so rapidly. This is a very unique situation occurring. Many of us are struggling with keeping up with the rapid shifts. Me. Before we move on too much, I just want to confirm that the Galactic Federation was not able to help us during the time of manipulation, but now they can? G. Correction. The Galactic Federation has been helping humanity since the dawning of its existence. Much of the assistance has been thwarted and manipulated by these nefarious beings. Many of the helpers or messengers in the past were persecuted, and their messages were twisted to serve nefarious plans. What has worked so far is bringing in galactic members as volunteers to incarnate and help from within. The councils understood that just one messenger wasn't enough. They needed to send down as many as possible to help shift the density. Me. What are some other examples of the Galactic Federation helping Earth that didn't work out? G. The Galactic Councils have instructed the nefarious beings to stop manipulating humans. However, because these beings have helped to create your species, they are entitled to certain rights. Me. This literally sounds like a bad divorce where mommy and daddy can't get along and are fighting over the rights of their children. G. Chuckling softly. Yes, Elizabeth, it is more like that than you probably know. Me. So what rights exactly are these beings allowed? I'm assuming the laws of the universe still apply? G. Correct. They cannot infringe on the universal laws. They are, however, entitled to educating their creation to a certain extent, keeping the universal laws in mind. Me. This is also how the Galactic Federation has been able to be involved too, because they were also a part of creating humans as well? G. Yes, that is correct. Me. Odd question, but just like the GFL incarnates on planet Earth, do the nefarious beings do this also? G. Yes, they do. This is where the Federation got the idea. Me. That's actually kind of ironic that what actually worked in shifting the vibration was a strategy from the dark side? G. There is more irony in the universe than you'll ever know. Me. So, big question here. What is Earth's main purpose, trajectory, or contract? What is our signature? What is our end goal? This will better help us to understand what the Galactic Federation is doing for us, since it's their purpose to help civilizations align to the collective contracts. G. This is a great question, Elizabeth. I am so glad you are asking. Side note, there was a long pause before he answered this. I saw him moving away from me before speaking his next sentence. He had to go and consult a counsel about answering this question, which I thought was weird. Me. Gee, why did you have to go away and ask if you were able to answer that question? I mean, don't we as humans have a right to know the answer? This is where it gets really weird. G. There are varying degrees of answers and responses to that question. Some answers you already know, and some remain hidden from your consciousness. If I give too much information away, it may be detrimental to the development of your civilization. I needed to ask permission for how much detail to give. Me, laughing in my mind. Couldn't you just look into your crystal ball and see the future timeline effects of the answers? G, laughing back. You are a witty one, aren't you? Yes, I could do so, but once again, the ultimate decision is not mine to make, especially if it interferes with your collective and organic progression. Me. I understand. So, what was the answer that you're allowed to tell us? G. I am allowed to tell you more than I thought I was allowed to tell you. Me. Okay. Before you say it, can you just elaborate on why you think humanity is ready to hear this now? G. Humanity is at a point where it is, as you humans say, it's now or never. At this point in time, we are able to relay most, if not all, of the information. You need to develop and advance as rapidly as possible. Basically, you need all the help you can get. Me. Now that makes a lot of sense. So spill the beans. We all want to know the purpose for humans. G. As Mika and Hira have mentioned, other beings in the book, humans were created as a peace treaty and prophecy. As you already know, humans are meant to end the war around the universe. What you do not know, however, is how humans are supposed to end the war. Me. Okay, yes. From my understanding, I just assumed that because humans are the creation of some of the lowest vibrational and highest vibrational beings of the universe, that everyone else would respect our ultimate choice and have to abide by that. Similar to putting a dog between parent 1 and parent 2, whoever the dog goes to is its favorite and the other parent just has to respect that choice. This is what I have assumed for years since the GFL told me about us being a hybrid experiment and peace treaty. G. In a perfect universe, this is how it would work. However, due to the greed and power lust that some of these civilizations have, abiding by humanity's choice would not end the war. Me. Wow, okay, this is news to me. So how exactly will humans end the wars throughout the universe? Side note. Another long pause from G. Almost as if he is apprehensive to state this. The impact feels real. G. In time, human beings will be the most powerful species to ever exist in the universe. Due to your unique hybridization and rapid growth, as well as the external influence you have grown from, humans will be able to put a long-term end to any being or species not respecting the laws of the universe. What sets you aside from any other species out there is your complex hybrid DNA makeup. You as a species do not need technology to enhance your intentions. You have everything you need from within. You are entirely unique in that way. This is why the most amount of resources have gone into you from both sides. So epic. Side note. I had to take a pause after this explanation. I take a couple of deep breaths and integrate what he's saying. I find the words to proceed. Me. I feel like the final piece of the puzzle. Although we don't pose a threat currently in our caveman-like state, we will pose a threat to the nefarious beings in the universe later on. G. That is correct. Me. The big question in my mind, and it freaks me out to even think about this, but what if humans turn dark? Like, what if we start using our powers for nefarious purposes, like the ones who have been manipulating the system? G. This is the fear the Galactic Federation has had since the prophecy first came about all of those years ago. This is the essence of the struggle and resources utilized to ensure you are exposed to both light and dark. Ultimately, it is up to you, individually and collectively, to make that choice. We are just here to give you the tools. Me. Okay, so basically we need to choose between light or dark during our infancy before we step into utilizing all our powers? G. Correct. Me. What happens if we step into our powers and then turn to the dark side? G. Really important. In order to utilize your greatest gifts, you must have a heightened vibration. You must be close to source energy. If a human or humanity chooses to separate from source, they will not be as powerful. This is also the crux of every species around the universe. This is why lower vibrational beings must rely on technology instead of their own systems because they choose separation rather than unity. The Galactic Federation's hope is that once humans feel the unconditional frequency of the central sun, they will choose unity. They will choose to help the universe rather than to hurt it. Me. Wow. I'm just taking it all in. This is a lot. G. He smiles with his eyes and gives me a boost of compassion energy from his heart to mine. I instantly feel better as he does this. I know it is. Me. So now I feel like humans are a superhero type of race created to defend the universe and lower civilizations from the bad guys. G. That is essentially what we are talking about. Yes. Me. So then, here's another big question. Are we on track? Is humanity on the right trajectory to complete this intention collectively? Not to be a downer, but it sure feels like we've gotten off track somewhere down the line recently. G. Humanity is in the midst of being manipulated one last time. The nefarious beings are doing whatever they can to bring you down before you understand your own truth. Although this is currently the situation taking place, humanity as a whole is more aligned to your end purpose now than ever before. Take that in. Me. Why is that? Why are we more aligned now than ever before? I've heard this before, that we're winning the war, but never really understood why, especially when observing all the fear currently going around. G. There are enough of you on the planet who have connected to unconditional frequency of the central sun. Although there is sometimes an immediate disconnect through manipulation and fear, that initial connection will never go away. And I'm going to repeat that. Although there is sometimes an immediate disconnect through manipulation and fear, that initial connection will never go away. That short-lived connection is enough to allow each human to see themselves and choose the path of unity rather than separation. Oof. The scales have been tipped enough to allow the transition to occur the way the prophecy speaks of. Me. But why wasn't it contracted for humans to experience this frequency right at the beginning? You would think that we would advance and fulfill the prophecy and help the universe much faster. No? G. We did try that approach. It was called Atlantis. Humans were taught and given everything. Because of their inherent ignorance to low vibration, morality, and polarity, they advanced too quickly with not enough foundation. To our disappointment, the Galactic Councils had to end the experiment. Me. Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. G. You see, it was in humanity's contracts to go through and observe the corruption and manipulation of these nefarious beings in order to understand and know what not to do. The experience you are in is as important is an important asset for you to learn from for later on. We have allowed this to happen to a certain extent to help you learn. Me. Do these nefarious beings know they are a part of these contracts and that you are letting them take place? G. Yes and no. Some believe they are getting away with their misdeeds, and some feel skeptical about why we are not fully stopping them, but they seem to continue regardless. Me. Wow. That is so interesting and makes a lot of sense to me. I do believe humanity is learning a lot from everything that is taking place. I feel as though our time is coming to an end. Are there any last messages you want to relay to humanity at this time? And before I relay G's last message, please be sure to share this video to those who are struggling to understand or struggling to step into their own power. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you're not subscribed already. Give this video a thumbs up because that definitely helps me. Check out my monthly Galactic Federation meetings that happen on the 11th of every month if you resonated with this conversation. That's what I do up there. And definitely check out the workshops that I have about love, the grid of Mother Gaia, astral traveling, and whatnot. And I just want to say I really appreciate all of you being here and holding space for this incredibly powerful DNA activating conversation. I get chills every time. G's last message. Humanity needs to understand that every possible event that could exist within affinity does exist. Humans need to be aware of their power to choose what they want to bring into existence through their observation and focus. If humanity believes that this world is dying, then it is. If you can collectively agree on an alternate belief, then it will be so. The forgetting of one's ability to choose and therefore create has been and could potentially be one of humanity's greatest downfalls. And I'm going to repeat that last sentence. The forgetting of one's ability to choose and therefore create has been and could potentially be one of humanity's greatest downfalls. Me. Powerful words, and what a strong message for us to be reminded of. I want to thank you so much, G, for connecting with us and taking the time and energy to relay these messages. Of course, I'll be back to annoy you again sometime soon. Thank you all so much for being here. As always, such a pleasure to be able to have these kind of conversations and actually present them publicly, and for the most part not get ridiculed for doing so. So I do really appreciate it. And as always, you guys, take or leave anything. If it resonates with you, it's for you. If not, then it's not for you at this time, and that's okay. But either way, I hope that you understand how important it is to make conscious choices and to create the world that you want your children and your grandchildren to live in. I will see all of you in the new Earth frequency. Bye for now.